It was the cruelest joke the universe had ever played. I opened my eyes, only to discover I had none. No body, no voice, no breath, just the brittle crack of old paper and the ache of forgotten ink running through me. I had become a diary, an antique, no less. My existence reduced to words that weren't even mine. And yet, destiny had left me with a task. To tether together two boys who would rather set fire to each other than admit what they really felt. The first time I saw them, it was chaos wrapped in silence. A football field after practice, floodlights buzzing like angry bees above the turf. One boy, Ethan Caldwell, quarterback, golden boy of Ridgefield High, stood with his hands on his hips, sweat glistening on his forehead, fury rolling off him like summer heat. The other, Noah Alvarez, the quiet transfer student who never looked anyone in the eye, stood a few yards away, his sketchbook falling to the grass as Ethan's words lashed out like knives. "You think you can just waltz in here and act like you belong?" Ethan snarled, voice sharp enough to break bone. Noah didn't flinch. He didn't even raise his voice. "I don't care what you think. I don't need your permission to exist." And there it was, the spark. Rage, pride, defiance. But threaded underneath, like the faintest brush of ink on parchment, was something else. Something the diary, could see even if they couldn't. The town they lived in wasn't kind. Ridgefield was the sort of place where secrets rotted if left in the sun too long. Where fathers raised their sons to throw punches before they ever taught them how to apologize. Where love between two boys was whispered about like a sickness. Yet fate had chosen these two. I could feel it. Every page of me hummed when they drew close. Every word I carried burned brighter when their eyes clashed across a hallway or a classroom. I was their witness, their unwilling matchmaker. And so I began to write them. Ethan Caldwell had always been told who he was supposed to be. The quarterback, the leader, the man with the easy smile who would marry a cheerleader, get a scholarship, and make Ridgefield proud. But Ethan carried rage in his bones, rage at a father who only noticed his failures, at a mother who smiled through broken dreams, at himself for wanting something he was never allowed to name. That something had a face now. Dark hair that always fell into tired eyes. Hands smudged with charcoal and ink. A voice that cut through silence without ever trying. Noah Alvarez. Noah had come from nowhere, so it seemed. His family had moved from the city, trading concrete and anonymity for Ridgefield's suffocating charm. He was the kind of boy who sketched the world not as it was, but as it should be. People mocked him for being different, for the way he dressed, for the way he avoided eye contact. But Noah didn't care. Or at least he pretended not to. What no one knew, not Ethan, not the town, not even Noah himself, was that inside him burned the same secret Ethan carried. And I, trapped in my cracked leather skin, was the thread binding them closer every day. The first time Ethan touched Noah wasn't with fists, though it easily could have been. It was in the library, late afternoon, sunlight slanting across shelves filled with forgotten stories. Ethan had come there to hide from his teammates, sick of pretending, sick of wearing a mask too heavy for his shoulders. Noah was already there, sketching quietly, the world disappearing beneath his pencil. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything stilled. "What are you drawing?" Ethan asked before he could stop himself. Noah hesitated, then turned the page toward him. A football field, empty, but in the center stood a lone figure, faceless, drowning under the weight of invisible eyes. Ethan's throat tightened. That's me." Noah didn't deny it. He just said softly, "You look tired when no one's watching." Ethan wanted to laugh, to shove the sketchbook away, to push Noah into silence. But instead, his hand reached out unthinking and his fingers brushed against Noah's. Just for a heartbeat, that single touch set every page in me aflame. But love in Ridgefield was never allowed to bloom without blood. The rumors started fast. Teammates whispering about Ethan spending too much time in the library, about Noah's strange way of looking at him, about what it meant when their hands brushed for just a second too long. The whispers became taunts, locker slams, shoves in the hallway. Noah endured it with silence, with that same unflinching stare that had infuriated Ethan from the start. But Ethan cracked. One night, under the blazing lights of a Friday game, he saw Noah in the stands, sketchbook in hand, eyes on him instead of the scoreboard. Ethan threw a perfect pass, won the game, and the crowd erupted. But when his teammates lifted him onto their shoulders, all he could see was Noah. And when one of them sneered, "Maybe your little boyfriend will give you a victory kiss," Ethan did the unforgivable. He laughed, loudly, cruelly. Noah's face shuddered, closing like a door. And for the first time, Ethan realized he had destroyed something fragile without even holding it yet. But fate is patient. Fate does not give up so easily. And I, bound in leather and ink, would not let them walk away from what was written, because what came next would tear them apart, then force them to choose, to surrender to the weight of hate, or to fight together for love. The night Ridgefield won that game, the whole town celebrated like it was the second coming of glory. Bonfires lit the football field, parents clapped their sons on the back, and the coach boomed about legacy and grit. But in the corner of the bleachers, where the light never quite reached, Noah closed his sketchbook without a word and walked away. I felt the weight of his silence more than any cheer. His footsteps dragged like a boy carrying stones in his chest. He didn't cry, not yet. Instead, he turned his back to the celebration, slipped into the shadowed streets of Ridgefield, and vanished into the night. Ethan saw him leave, and that was the moment guilt began to eat him alive. Days passed. Ethan tried to bury the memory with drills, with laughter that tasted of ash, with the smirks of teammates who thought mocking Noah had been the highlight of the season. But at night, when the world fell quiet, he replayed the look on Noah's face when he'd laughed with the others. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even hurt. It was worse. It was betrayal. Ethan began to notice things he hadn't before. Noah stopped sketching in the library. He avoided eye contact in the hallways, his shoulders hunched as though the world had finally managed to crush him. When someone shoved him near his locker, he didn't flinch, just gathered his books in silence, disappearing into the crowd as though he was fading from existence altogether. The boy who had once stood like stone now looked like he might shatter at a breath. And every time Ethan's chest tightened, because he knew it was his fault. One rainy afternoon, Ethan found himself in the library again. The shelves smelled of dust and ink, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead sharp and lonely. He sat down at a table, opened a book he didn't intend to read, and tried not to think about how empty the corner looked without Noah. That's when it happened. A sound, a soft thud. He glanced up there, between the stacks. Noah dropped his sketchbook. He hadn't seen Ethan, hadn't realized anyone was there. His hands trembled as he bent to pick it up, but before he could, Ethan moved without thinking. He picked it up first. The diary in me flared with a strange ache. I knew what was inside. I knew what Noah drew when no one was watching, and so did Ethan now, because on the open page, staring back at him, was a sketch of himself. Not the quarterback, not the golden boy, not the mask, but Ethan, the boy with shadows under his eyes, the one who smiled like it hurt. Their eyes met. Noah froze. "Why?" Ethan whispered, the word raw in his throat. Noah snatched the sketchbook back, hugging it to his chest like armor. "It's just a drawing." "No, it's not." The silence between them was sharp, filled with everything neither dared to say. Ethan wanted to beg for forgiveness, to explain that the laughter had been hollow, that he hadn't meant it, that he hated himself for it. But words had always been his weakest weapon. So instead he said, "I'm sorry." And for the first time in weeks, Noah's mask cracked. His voice shook. "Sorry doesn't fix it." Then he was gone again. If Ridgefield was cruel before, it grew ruthless now. Rumors had teeth. Whispers turned into slurs. The more Ethan tried to shield Noah stepping between him and shoving shoulders, glaring down teammates, the worse it became. People noticed. And people in Ridgefield did not forgive boys like Ethan Caldwell for protecting boys like Noah Alvarez. One night it came to a breaking point. It was after practice, the field soaked with rain. Ethan was the last one to leave, the locker room empty except for the echo of dripping water. That's when he heard it, voices, low and mocking, coming from the parking lot. He ran, and what he saw nearly undid him. 3 boys from his team had cornered Noah against a chain-link fence, his sketchbook torn in half on the ground. One of them shoved him, another laughed, and the third said words I refused to carve into these pages. Words too ugly, too hateful. Ethan's blood roared. He didn't think. He didn't hesitate. He slammed into them like a storm, fists flying, rage spilling out in every punch. He fought like a boy who'd spent his whole life swallowing poison and finally decided to spit it out. The 3 of them went down hard, but not before one of them landed a blow that split his lip. When it was over, the boys scrambled away, swearing vengeance. Ethan stood heaving, his knuckles bloody, his breath ragged. Noah looked at him like he was both salvation and sin. "You didn't have to do that," Noah whispered. "Yes, I did." For a long moment, rain fell between them like a curtain, washing blood into the mud. Then, without permission, without thought, Ethan stepped forward. His hand reached for Noah's cheek, thumb brushing away a raindrop or maybe a tear. Noah didn't pull away. The diary in me burned, alive with destiny. But Ridgefield was watching. By Monday morning, the whole school knew. Ethan Caldwell, golden boy, had defended Noah Alvarez. And in a place where masculinity was measured in cruelty, where queerness was a curse, it wasn't just gossip. It was war. The coach benched him. Teammates turned their backs. His father's silence at dinner grew heavier than a fist. And through it all, Noah tried to distance himself again, to protect Ethan, to cut the thread between them before it strangled them both. "This will destroy you," Noah said one night when Ethan found him sitting on the bleachers, the stadium empty, the world asleep. "I don't care. You should." "I don't." Ethan's voice cracked. "Don't you get it? You're the only thing that feels real. Everything else, football, the team, the town, it's all a mask. But you," his throat tightened, words fighting to be born. "You see me. You always have." Noah's hand trembled on his sketchbook. "I can't be your secret." "You're not." "Then prove it." The challenge hung between them like lightning waiting to strike. And I, bound by leather and ink, knew the storm had only just begun. That night, Ethan made a choice that would change everything. He showed up at the diner, the place where half the town gathered on Friday nights, where whispers could become wildfire. Noah was there, sketching by the window. People stared when Ethan walked in, bruised lips still healing, shoulders squared like he was marching into battle. He didn't falter, didn't blink. He walked straight to Noah's booth. And in front of everyone, parents, classmates, neighbors who'd known him since birth sat down beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. The diner went silent. Ethan looked Noah in the eye and said, loud enough for the world to hear, "I'm not ashamed of you." The silence shattered. Murmurs erupted. Someone scoffed. Someone else gasped. But Ethan didn't care. He only cared about the way Noah's breath hitched, the way his eyes widened, the way his hand trembled against the sketchbook. For the first time, the mask was gone. And though the storm outside was just beginning, inside, a seed of something unbreakable had taken root. The diner was never the same after that night. The moment Ethan sat beside Noah in full view of Ridgefield, whispers became war cries. For some, it was scandal. For others, it was betrayal. But for Ethan and Noah, it was a point of no return. The fallout was merciless. Ethan's teammates cut him out completely. His best friend since childhood wouldn't meet his eyes. The coach told him he'd thrown away his future. His father's silence became punishment sharper than any belt. Meals eaten in dead air. The weight of disappointment pressing harder than a hand around his throat. Noah, meanwhile, became the town's scapegoat. The city boy who ruined Ridgefield's golden sun. Parents whispered that he was trouble, that their kids should stay away. At school, his sketchbook was torn up again. Locker graffiti bloomed with slurs. He learned to walk quickly, to keep his head down, but even then, the sting of being unwelcome clung to him like smoke. Yet, despite the world's claws, their connection only grew. One late night, Ethan climbed through Noah's window. His face was bruised from another fight, this one with his father. Noah was at his desk, sketching by the faint glow of a desk lamp, music humming quietly from his old radio. When he saw Ethan, his eyes widened. "What are you doing here?" "Couldn't stay there," Ethan muttered, sliding into the room. He looked exhausted, shoulders slumped under invisible weight. Noah shut his sketchbook. He didn't ask for details. He just said softly, "You're bleeding." Ethan glanced at the cut on his cheek, then shrugged. "Doesn't matter." Noah crossed the room, reaching for a first aid kit from his drawer. As he dabbed at Ethan's cheek with careful hands, the silence between them was heavy but not empty. Ethan's breath hitched when Noah's fingers brushed his skin, his chest tightening at the gentleness he hadn't known he needed. "You can't keep doing this," Noah whispered. "What choice do I have?" Ethan's voice broke. "They want me to be someone I'm not. They want me to hate you. They want me to pretend I don't." He stopped, choking on the words. Noah froze, his hand hovering near Ethan's face. "Don't what?" Ethan looked at him, eyes raw and unguarded. "Don't love you." The words hung in the room like thunder. Noah's breath caught, his heart pounding so hard he thought Ethan could hear it. He searched Ethan's face, waiting for hesitation, for regret. But all he saw was truth. And then Noah kissed him. It wasn't fireworks or explosions, it was quiet, trembling, fragile. It was two boys who had been starved of gentleness finally tasting it. Ethan's hand curled at the back of Noah's neck, desperate and tender, while Noah clung to him like someone afraid of being ripped away. For the first time, the diary inside me felt whole. Pages that had once been brittle sang with new life. This was what I had been made for, to bind them, to remind them that even in the cruelest places, love could still bloom. But Ridgefield wasn't done testing them. The next morning, a photo began to circulate. Someone had seen them through the window. Ethan and Noah, kissing in the dim glow of a desk lamp. The school erupted. The principal called them both in, not with concern but with coldness. "You're a disruption," he said, tapping the desk with his pen. "This school is not a place for behavior like this." Ethan's jaw clenched. "So you'd rather we lie?" The principal didn't answer. He didn't need to. The message was clear. Keep quiet or be crushed. Noah walked out of the office with his hands shaking. Ethan followed him down the hall, catching his arm. "They're not going to scare me," Ethan said fiercely. "They don't have to scare you. They'll destroy you," Noah snapped, his voice cracking under the weight of fear. "You'll lose everything, your team, your scholarship, your family. I don't care about any of that." "You should," Noah shouted. The hall was empty, but his voice still echoed like a wound. "You have a future. I can survive being nothing, Ethan. I've been nothing before. But you were supposed to be everything." Ethan stared at him, pain flickering across his face. "What's the point of being everything if I can't be yours?" The words broke Noah's resolve. He turned away before Ethan could see the tears brimming in his eyes. The separation began slowly, then swallowed them whole. Noah stopped answering Ethan's calls. He skipped the library. He sat on the opposite side of classrooms. Ethan tried, over and over, to bridge the distance, but Noah's silence was a wall too high to climb. The diary in me ached. My pages burned with every word unsaid. Every sketch Noah tore out and threw away. Fate wasn't meant to be this cruel, and yet, I could not interfere, only record, only ache, only hope. Until the night of the winter dance. The gym was a glittering lie that night, strung with fairy lights and cheap streamers. Music pounded through the speakers, kids twirled in dresses and suits, and laughter filled the air like it belonged. Ethan arrived late, his tie loose, his expression hollow. He hadn't planned on staying long. What was the point, when Noah wasn't there? But then, across the crowd, he saw him. Noah stood near the back, pressed against the wall like he was trying to disappear. He hadn't dressed up. His shirt was simple, his hair unkempt. But his eyes, when they met Ethan's across the gym, were filled with something Ethan hadn't seen in weeks. Longing, fear, love, buried under rubble but still alive. Ethan didn't hesitate. He crossed the gym, ignoring the stares, the whispers. He didn't care anymore. When he reached Noah, he stopped, breathless, heart pounding. Noah's voice was tight. "What are you doing?" "Living," Ethan said. And then, in front of everyone, he reached for Noah's hand. The room fell silent. Music still throbbed through the speakers, but the air shifted, heavy with disbelief. 100 eyes burned into them, but Ethan didn't falter. "Dance with me," he whispered. Noah's hand trembled in his, but he didn't pull away. Slowly, painfully, he let Ethan lead him to the center of the gym. And there, under the harsh glow of gym lights, they began to move. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't perfect. But it was theirs. The crowd erupted gasps, laughter, even boos. Someone shouted a slur. Someone else stormed out. But Ethan tightened his hold, his eyes never leaving Noah's. "You're not nothing," he whispered. "You're everything." Noah's breath hitched. And then he smiled, small and broken but real, as he leaned into Ethan's shoulder. The days that followed were hell. Ethan was officially kicked off the team. His father's disappointment turned into fury, the kind that slammed doors and shattered bottles. Noah's family considered moving again. Sick of the stares, the hate notes slipped under their door. But something had changed. They had chosen each other. And no matter how loud Ridgefield screamed, how much it tried to tear them apart, Ethan and Noah held fast. They walked through the halls together, shoulders brushing. They sat side by side in the diner, sketchbook open between them. They carved their truth into the world with every defiant smile, every quiet touch. It was not easy. It was never easy. But it was love. And love, even in Ridgefield, had the power to outlast everything. As spring thawed the winter frost, if diary felt my purpose fading. The ink inside me had told their story, had bound their souls, had witnessed their struggle. Now, their hands no longer needed guiding. They had chosen the path on their own. On the last day of school, Noah slipped his sketchbook into his bag. Ethan slung his arm around him as they walked out of Ridgefield High for the final time. And as the sun set behind them, painting the world gold, I closed my pages with peace. Their story wasn't ending. It was only beginning. And I, the diary, would rest knowing I had kept my promise. Summer came like a breath of freedom, warm winds sweeping away the frost of Ridgefield's cruelty. But scars lingered, etched deep into the lives of Ethan and Noah. Every choice they had made, every stand they had taken, had left a mark in their families, their friendships, their dreams. For Ethan, the price was clear. His football career was gone. The scholarship offers evaporated. His father's silence had grown into something colder, an absence that felt like abandonment. Sometimes, Ethan stared at his cleats in the corner of his room, once polished and proud, now gathering dust. He had lost the life everyone told him was his destiny. For Noah, the weight was different. His family debated leaving Ridgefield every other week. His mother weary of the town's small-minded whispers. His father sick of pretending not to hear the venom neighbors spat under their breath. Noah worried constantly that Ethan would regret him, that one day the cost would be too high. And yet, despite it all, they were together. The summer days became their sanctuary. Long drives down winding country roads with the windows rolled down, music blasting into the fields. Sketching each other in quiet corners of the park, Ethan teasing Noah about the way he always made him look too serious. Watching old movies in Noah's living room, their hands brushing in the dark until fingers intertwined naturally, fearlessly. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And it was theirs. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the sky, Ethan and Noah sat by the riverbank. The water rippled gold, the cicadas humming like an orchestra. Noah had his sketchbook open. Ethan sprawled back in the grass, an arm draped lazily over his eyes. "You should draw something else for once," Ethan murmured. "I do," Noah replied without looking up. "You just don't see it." Ethan peeked at the sketchbook and smirked. It was him again, messy hair, tired eyes, lips tilted in a half-smile Noah claimed was rare but worth capturing. "You're obsessed," Ethan teased. Noah finally looked at him, expression soft, fragile. Maybe I am. The words carried weight. Not just affection, but fear, the kind that wondered if obsession could survive the real world. Ethan sat up, leaning closer. Then let's give them something to really talk about. Noah frowned. What do you mean? College. Future. I don't want to hide anymore. Not here. Not anywhere. Ethan's voice was firm, conviction blazing in his eyes. If I don't play football, fine. I'll figure out something else. But I'm not figuring it out without you. Noah's throat tightened. You don't know what you're giving up. I know exactly what I'm gaining. And then Ethan kissed him, the river glinting like fire behind them, the world folding small and quiet around two boys who had chosen each other against everything. But Ridgefield wasn't done testing them. 1 week later, Ethan's father finally spoke. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't kind. You've embarrassed this family, he spat, the veins in his neck sharp with fury. You've thrown away everything for him. The word dripped like poison. Ethan stood tall, jaw set, but his hands trembled at his sides. I didn't throw anything away. I chose. You chose wrong. For a moment, silence hung like a noose. Ethan's mother sat at the kitchen table, tears brimming, but she said nothing. Ethan's voice cracked. The only wrong choice would have been to keep pretending, to keep lying about who I am. His father's face twisted, rage spilling over. Then you're no son of mine. The words struck like a blow. Ethan staggered back, the air knocked out of him, but he didn't crumble. He couldn't. He left that night with nothing but a backpack, a phone, and the memory of a home that had never really been his. And when Noah opened his bedroom window to see Ethan standing there, broken but unbowed, he didn't hesitate. He pulled him inside, wrapped him in an embrace that said everything words couldn't. You still have me, Noah whispered fiercely. Always. And in that moment, Ethan believed it. The rest of the summer was survival. They picked up shifts at the local diner, side by side, pouring coffee and wiping tables while customers whispered behind their backs. They studied college brochures together, plotting futures in cities where no one knew their names, where holding hands wouldn't feel like rebellion. Slowly, painfully, the town began to shift. Not all at once, never all at once, but piece by piece. A teacher offered Noah a quiet smile after class. A younger kid, nervous and wide-eyed, slipped Ethan a folded note that simply said, "Thank you." Even Ethan's mother, though still bound by silence, began leaving his favorite food on the counter, small offerings in place of words she wasn't ready to speak. Change was fragile, but it was there, and it was enough to keep them going. The night before they left for college, they returned to the football field. It was empty, the bleachers silent, the scoreboard dark. Ethan stood at the 50-yard line, staring at the place that had once been his kingdom. This used to be everything, he said quietly. And now? Noah asked, standing beside him. Ethan looked at him, really looked. The boy who had been his rival, his torment, his salvation. The boy who had seen him when no one else dared to. Now it's just grass, Ethan said. You're everything. Noah's chest tightened. He opened his sketchbook one last time and pressed a page into Ethan's hands. It was a drawing of the two of them on this very field standing side by side, fingers laced, heads tilted toward one another. The bleachers behind them were filled with faceless shadows, but the spotlight was only on them. Ethan swallowed hard. You kept this. I always knew we'd get here, Noah whispered, even when you didn't. And for once, Ethan didn't argue. He just kissed him, right there on the 50-yard line with no fear of who might see. When fall came, they packed their lives into the back of Noah's car. Ridgefield shrank behind them in the rearview mirror, its voices fading into distance. Ahead lay cities, futures, unknowns. But together they weren't afraid. As the car sped down the highway, the diary in me felt my pages loosening, the ink fading. My task was done. I had bound them, through pain and through love, through silence and through storms. I had watched them choose each other, again and again, until choice became destiny. On the last page, words appeared without ink, without hand. A whisper only I could give. Love is not weakness. Love is survival. And you have survived. Then, with peace, I closed forever. Years later, when Ethan and Noah built a home filled with sketches and laughter, they would sometimes stumble across an old leather diary on a forgotten shelf. They never remembered buying it, never remembered owning it. But whenever they opened it, the pages were blank. And yet, somehow it always made them smile. Because they knew the story already. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.